Hi there, everybody. Welcome to Craft Blend Book Reviews number 20 and 21. So, yes, I am here. My name is Daniel, and I'm here with Heather.
Yay!
And today we want to say welcome to the new year, 2024, baby. But yes, we made it another year, and this is our third
Yay!
year. Our third year doing it? Well, second year, but we started kind of but yeah. But so let's get into it. Our theme this episode is uh, Blast from the Past. It's our special. Some of our specials, we do two books at once. We don't have many episodes like that. This is like our third that has two within similar themes. So within this episode, we decided to go back. And I apologize, Heather, for revealing a little bit about yourself in the sense that these books are 20 years old. So me and Heather are not 16.
No, man.
Yeah, we're reading our childhood favorites from 20 years ago when we were 16. We are reading You Don't Know Me from David Klass. Woo! And Rainbow Boys by Alex Sanchez. And guess what, guys? These are, well, I can't lie about You Don't Know Me. You Don't Know Me, I had to rebuy. But Rainbow Boys is my original copy. Look how yellow with nicotine. Uh,
Yeah, mine is all
yeah,
dirty. Both of mine,
yeah.
both of mine are original copies. Yeah, so I've had these for a long time.
Yes. So we decided to do this because you know what? Start the new year then to reminisce with old faves. And then also, it's really great to sometimes reread things, especially favorites, because it could inspire you to do more. And then sometimes, like when you um, rewatch a movie or do something, you pick up on things you didn't the first time around. And also, with an adult context, since we haven't read these in a good decades, you know, do they live up? But yes, so I will first go into Rainbow Boys by Alex Sanchez. So this is my childhood fave. So little history. I'll start first with my history with Heather. Heather and I met in psychology class in high school. And the way we bonded and met for the first time is we were reading the same book. It was so awesome. We were reading the Da Vinci Code
No,
from
the
Dan Brown.
Angels and Demons.
Angels and Demons. It's because
They're both,
like
yeah.
later on, the Da Vinci Code is the one that became popular, and then so it like reread our memory. But yes, Angels and Demons from the Dan Brown, and
Yeah.
then we're little bookworms together, little younger selves, so always bonding over books and stuff. She would lend me books, and I would lend her books and stuff like that. Which are you done with Nana season one? Because I need to give you
Yeah, I just
season
have to give
two.
it back to you.
Yeah, I need to give you season two. Anyways, but yes, so we always bond over books and stuff like that. And we have read these classics before. So I'll go into my own history with this one because I remember talking to Heather and stuff like that. And I was scared about this book because I wasn't fully out yet to my parents. And then, of course, the title, Rainbow Boys, it's like obvious that it's like a queer book. So I was like, damn it, Heather, what do I do? And then she's like, our parents really don't pay attention to what we read. Like, they really don't. Just make sure it's in your book bag. Just make sure, like, and then Rainbow Boys, just make something up.
I used to have a book on like witchcraft, and my mom, she's super religious, and she would have killed me if she never found that. I still have that book, but she never knew about it.
Yeah, because they don't really like, yeah, my mom just goes, oh, you're reading? Oh, that's so good. And she just walks away.
If
So
they
it's
paid
like,
attention to us at all, because my mom, like, I could read in the living room, she'd have no idea what I was doing.
exactly. So it's like all this panic for nothing. So I couldn't find the book. So I remember going to my high school library and getting enough courage to, because basically I'm kind of coming out to the librarian at that point. But no, she was very awesome and kind. She also helped me with the SATs, but that's a different story. But yeah, she was just so she ordered the book for me, and I got the book like 2 weeks later or whatever. And yeah, I ended up buying the book a little bit after, which Heather, remember this wasn't in young adult or this wasn't in fiction. This was like next to like religion and African studies. It was
Yeah.
like within world, yeah, so it was in sex and sexuality. Like I'm like, why is it there? Like, but and then this was the only book I knew because the rest were like erotica. It's like next with
Yeah.
erotica and then books about the AIDS epidemic and stuff like that. So it really is it was my first queer book that I was like my treasure trove that I was looking for. And yeah, so it is written by Alex Sanchez, Mexican American, and he writes in the point of view of three queer teens. There's Jason, Kyle, and Nelson, and it is their high school experience dealing with coming out and just the trials and tribulations of a queer teen, being queer teens. So yeah, that is Rainbow Boys. And now I will pass it to Heather and her memories with David Klass. You don't know me.
Um, well, to continue with Rainbow Boys, yeah, I don't really remember where I got it or how I got it. I just, I think I got it at the bookstore. I'm pretty sure. And like you were saying, like I mean, my parents, they never paid enough attention, so I brought books home and they didn't know anything. Um, I think honestly, like I have the worst memories. I don't remember how I found You Don't
Don't worry,
I
Mama.
think I found it. Well, I think I found it in the library first, and I think I read it there, and then I wanted to own it. And the reason I like You Don't Know Me so much is because I connected a lot with the main character. I felt that I had so much similarity between him and me. And You Don't Know Me was funny enough talking about our parents. I think the way that the story worked, it made me connect to him even more because of that. Because I felt often that my mom and dad didn't really know me. I mean, they were Hispanic parents. They grew up in, a different country, a different time. On top of that, my mother was very religious. And, it was like me and them were just totally different people. I grew up in the United States. I was raised American, and that's just who I am. I mean, I'd love to say that I'm connected to my Hispanic heritage, but really, mainly through food and music, probably the most. But really, I was brought up here, and I spoke English was my first language, not Spanish. So, like, I think that I related to him in that way too, because well, we'll talk about it later, but the way he talks about in the book is probably how I felt towards my parents. And so just everything about this book felt like me, but not obviously because he goes through something a little different. But his character, his personality, I really connected with. So I think that when I read it in the library, I loved it so much that I went out and bought it. And then I remember rereading it again. And then, yeah, just one of my favorite books and just really classifies who I am, I guess.
Oh, that's awesome. So yes, so we're going to continue. So we'll go back a little bit to Rainbow Boys by Alex Sanchez. We're going to talk about our three protagonists and the point of views and what we thought. So yeah, I'll go first. Really, really amazing that we did this month. I was getting so much like butterflies. I was like teleporting back to my youngest self. I forgot how much I love it. I love it. And I was, a little bit cautious at first because now with like growing up with the newer generation and Gen Z and all of that, there's a lot of like heavy things in the book that could, But no, I felt like it was like a good time capsule, even with the slurs and everything. And then unfortunately, like I lived through those times, so I can say, yes, it's authentic. It is authentic. There were bullies, I've had the same things with Nelson, bullies like using the F slur and then pushing me in the hallways, or like me walking home from school. The few times I did walk home, and them like chasing me down alleys and stuff like. So it is true to the queer experience that could be different for, queer kids today, or not so different depending on what state. But yeah, so at least for me reading, I love the three point of views. And then one thing, I don't know if you've noticed either, Heather, not noticed, but just like how much, because I don't know who your favorite character is, because this goes to question number two of like our favorite POV. I think mine's is Nelson, and it still is. It was Nelson back then. It's Nelson now. Nelson to me is not the star, because I grew to love all three, and all three are important. But juxtaposed with our media now and how they focus a lot of queer stories through media, focus on the jock and the nerd. And then that's with straight culture too, which is like, the jock or the cheerleader, with coming of age stories and stuff like that. What I find still amazingly is that we had that point of view with Nelson. And then with Jason, I didn't realize the book does imply more that he's bisexual. And then I just remember all three of them being gay, like to my memory, and then, but I guess with bi erasure, which super existed back in the day, then it's like, you're not bi, you're just confused, or it's just a phase, or you're one way or the other. You can never truly be like equal. Like, those phobias did exist, and those prejudices this exist even back then, because it's kind of written like that, but a little forward in the sense that Jason still doesn't deny his bisexuality. So, um, with the point of views, that's what I love. And then Heather could attest to this. We both love it. We love multiple protagonists. We love that when it goes back to back in chapter, because it never makes the book mundane or boring. You're always, the pace is so good. And just overall, I really enjoyed the writing. How about you, Heather? How was
Yeah, I
your
mean,
memory lane?
yeah, no, it was fun. I mean, I remember when I was reading it, I just remember, like, getting into that space where I just wanted to keep reading. Like I could read for a long time, and that's what I did with this too.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember a couple of times I just sat down on the couch and I just read for like an hour
And
and
the
just kept
hours,
going.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
hours melted, and it was
Yeah,
like you were a
exactly.
kid
You're
again, kicking
having
our feet.
fun. You're having fun essentially.
Yes.
I think that I think that like you were saying, they all bring something really interesting to the story. I think if I were to pick a favorite, it would probably be Jason. But I think because I related to him in the sense of um probably his familial story, his parents, the way that they were raised, the alcoholism. I could relate heavily to his relationship with his parents. So I think for me, Jason's story really like was
Yes, I had a
was
new
something that I
kindness
really
for him.
enjoyed. Yeah, because I could
Yes, he's
see,
more than just a jock.
yeah, I could also see like that, that Hispanic side to what he brings. Because, Kyle and Nelson tend to be a little more like, they're just your average white guys. And so Jason brought that little extra bit of wanting of relativity to him because of that Hispanic connection as well. And then but yeah, they all just bring something to the table. I think the one thing that I kept thinking was like how reckless Nelson is. And that as an adult, I'm stressed because
Oh my
like
God.
I think at the time, right? Like at the time when I read it when I was younger, maybe I could kind of go like I could have understand why Nelson did what he did, but now as an adult, I'm like, Nelson, por favor, why are you doing this? Like get your shit together, please. But then remember he's in high school and everybody does dumb things in high school. But as the adult that I am now, I just want to like smack Nelson across the head and be like,
Yeah,
why do you make these stupid choices? But
yeah.
definitely, yeah. They each bring something to the table. I would say the only one that was kind of like um that felt a
Mid,
little mid,
mid.
yeah, was Kyle. Yeah, Kyle kind of
Yeah,
like at the time, like, I remember when I first read it, obviously through the eyes of a kid, like I'm excited for the romance and like, oh, they're falling in love, how cute, everybody's so sweet and whatever. But obviously, as you get older, you're looking back and Kyle's okay. He's just your average kid, really. He's your
yeah,
average kid. And I think that's great though, because I think it kind of shows, I think it kind of like how it shows your extremes, right? You have your child in an abusive home. You have your child who is a little reckless, even though they have great parents. And then you have just your average kid that's just
average
gay.
middle.
Yeah, he's just
Exactly,
gay, and he's
exactly,
still normal. He acts how he acts. He has parents who love him.
exactly.
He has a regular life, and I think that that idea of Kyle is a sort of like establishing a what's the word? I had it. It's sort of just like normalizing what it means to just be a gay kid and making it normal that it is just growing up and you're just happen to be gay.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's why this book at least stands the test of time with the three point of views, is that we have like the three Kinsey scale of gayness. We have
Right.
like the jock, yeah, yeah, we have the jock, then we have the middle gay person who's like, could pass, and then we have Nelson, who is our fabulous, like
Flamboyant,
over the
yeah.
top, yeah, flamboyant, which that's why, like, till this day, I like, because a lot of people just hate the flamboyant character. The flamboyant character is the one that gets the most shit, which now with media and stuff like that, where the flamboyant character is making a comeback and is the most, you know, fun one to follow,
Yeah.
because we've done the other tropes so much. But yeah, with like Nelson, I love Nelson. Nelson is like, even with his stupidities, because I also feel like it's a very educational book under all the drama,
Mm-hmm.
because we get to with his mistakes, it's like
Discuss,
po-
yeah.
yeah, it's also it's the Rizzo effect of like with Grease and stuff like that, the sluttier character, or the character, learning
Yeah, the
about
one that just
pers-
makes bad mistakes, like one that makes
exactly.
decisions that you kind of like are like, I don't know why you would do that, but there are people who do things like that, and it
Yes,
just
but
happens.
what works too is just his humor. It's like you gotta
Yeah,
live a little. Sometimes you gotta suck a dick. It's like, I just love Nelson.
yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
Nelson's a pretty likable character. I mean, I think that I think all of them together, like the three of them are just, yeah, this trifecta of a gay guys that are just like you want to be friends with them. You're like, these are like cool people. You want to hang out with them. They seem really sweet and really interesting. And
yeah,
Nelson has all of these ideas and stories. He's just your likable, excitable guy. And yeah, I think that definitely it does stand, the test of time. And on top of that, like you said, being educational, because we get to experience what the discussion about AIDS, about unprotected sex, about making sure that you're doing these things with someone that you care about, so that it's
exactly.
if you want to, obviously, but so that it is special for you, no matter that just because you are, whatever you are, you can still have a valuable relationship, and it doesn't have to be the way that the media depicts it or the way that anybody does. It could just be how you want it to be. And I think that, yeah, it gives you these
Yeah,
these perspectives on, I think that, like you were saying, how you grew up and this was new to the world kind of in that time, that I think it was written exactly for that, to normalize these kids,
yes,
and also
exactly.
for other kids who were queer to look at these characters and go, that's me. That's who I am. I'm one of these guys. And seeing themselves depicted. And I think that Alex Sanchez does a good job, and I think it still holds today for sure.
Yes, and then it was really fun. I don't know. I got really like slightly happy teary, because like, for example, with Kyle and stuff like that, he's like, maybe gay marriage will exist one day. And then to know that like 10 or 15 years, like, we do get it. So like, and it's just knowing that like even with safer sex and everything with the PrEP pill and all the strides with AIDS medication now, and it's just like kids just wait like 10 to 15 more years. That's why I really want a new trilogy because I would die. But yeah, oh my god. But yeah, with all the storylines, which one would you say would be your favorite? Like what
Um,
storylines popped out to you or characters too?
no, I mean, I think like I was saying, Jason is definitely his storyline is my favorite just because of how he grows so much by the end of the book. And then another little like mini kind of relationship is Shea and the girlfriend about how they're in an open lesbian relationship, but then one of them decides to move on while the other one stays in their hometown. I thought that was interesting because it brought like this reality that kids grow up and you think you're in love with someone, you think you're gonna be with them forever, and then sometimes things happen and you're not. But that it normalizes it again. It adds that storyline that is normalized in heterosexual relationships, but gives it to a homosexual couple. Like this can happen still to you even though you
Yeah,
are gay. This is normal. It happens to all of us. I think
yeah,
that normalization throughout the story is the word that I think comes up a lot for me, that it just makes it not so like this taboo thing that can't, like, oh my god, it's happening over there. It's just this happens. It's average, and it's an everyday thing. And I think that's so special and important of a conversation to have, and to
it
and
is.
and something to depict for everyone, that it's normal and you experience the same things no matter what relationship type you're in.
Yeah. What did you think of some of the straight characters, the straight side characters?
I think that at first I kind of like didn't I kind of hated Deborah, right? Jason's ex-girlfriend, for telling Cindy about him being gay. But when I thought about it afterwards, like thinking about it as someone who is straight and has a straight relationship, if my partner, if my partner came to me and said that they were gay after falling for them and being in love with them, right, and having this intimate relationship with them, I mean, yeah, who else could you talk to? Like, who else could you talk to other than your best friend at the time, right? It's not like she wanted to out him, but who could she talk to? Like, she couldn't talk to her family about this, I'm sure. She couldn't talk to anyone else, so Cindy was the only person that she could bring this up to.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I like that even though the three of them knew, they didn't tell anybody. The friends, Deborah, the Cindy, the friend, and then the other friend, I don't know, the boy, I forget his name,
Corey,
Corey.
Corey.
Like they didn't tell anybody, and I thought that was at least nice that they were
Yeah.
friends enough.
He
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Alex Sanchez had a good balance of showing like the not evil. I don't like to say evil, but
yeah, no, you're
showing
shittier
the
straight people and you're
yeah,
nicer straight people. Yeah,
straight people exactly that not everybody you could come out could be safe, and to bring understandings of what some parallel universes that could happen. When you do tell your parents, we either have the Nelson, which is the overbearing, awesome mom who's like joins P Flag and who's like, I'm going to do everything for my son. Then we have the middle understanding with Kyle, with his parents being a little trepidatious, but at the same time, it's their son. They're going to love
yeah,
their son. They need time, but while, Jason has the religious parents, the alcoholic dad, the mom who's in denial. So it's
yeah.
like
And the
it really
macho
is
dad too, that the macho dad that doesn't that hated
exact
his son for any idea of queerness. Yeah,
any idea of queerness. So yeah, it's just like it's really really great in that sense that it knocks every corner. Now we're going to go into David Klass's book, You Don't Know Me. And then what we think of John. Does John have a last name? I forgot his last name.
um I don't think they ever say his last name.
Yeah.
They might have, but I
So,
don't remember. I don't think
and
so.
then,
I
yeah, and
don't
then
think his
now,
last name is all that.
yeah, it's not that important. But with him, it's one point of view. It's his own point of view and how we
Yeah. So
Yes, so
I
you
forgot
want to keep a
to
quick
explain,
synopsis. Yeah.
yes, I forgot to explain what the book is about. Essentially, it's about this kid named John, and he's kind of like bringing you into his mind almost. He's speaking in first person, and he's essentially showing you what his life is like. And you is an important word to use because he's not talking to just anybody. He's talking to a one person. And you don't know me, that you is specific to someone. And in this case, it's his mother. He's speaking directly to his mother and referencing, like, this is my life. This is how I view the world. And you don't know any of that because it's happening inside my head. And I can't. And essentially, he goes through life. He makes friends. He has friends. He has a partner that he likes, that he wants to get with, this girl that he likes. And then he has his teacher who seems invested in his life, and he has a stepdad who just ends up being a shitty person. He's abusive, and he's just kind of going through life as your weird kid with a shitty home life, and goes through what happens to him, and what happens ultimately to him and his family and his mother. And that's essentially what the story is about, just him and what he goes through.
Yeah.
Let me see. So yeah, so I think for me, the thing that I also liked is because it's one of those things for me that the second person stories are hit and miss for me. Some people do it really well, some people don't do it that great. I think in this case, it was a simple second person because he's just talking to his mother essentially, right? So I think he does it really well. You know that this conversation, you're reading it, so you're taking it in, but you know that it's not to you, it's to his mom, right? And so, like, I really enjoyed that. I think the most, in terms of the writing, is how much, just that vantage point, that point of view that we have. And I really like second person if it's done well. It's one of my favorites. So I think that going into, well, that, yeah, what do you feel about the point of view?
Me, I really, really, really grew to like John a lot. Now, I do admit, at least with me, at first, I was a little bit like trepidous, because he would be like, this is my father who is not my father. He talks in very like, bye, baby, hasta mañana, te quiero mucho. With me, his point of view it's not annoying because it wasn't annoying. It's just I wasn't used to it, and it's just, and then it does. I started to like him more, and then it's because I have to put it within my point of view in the sense of like this is how we would be like when we would drift in our own mind, and then like especially when he describes the teacher and he describes the situations that's going, and he's very analytical of people, and then I'm like, I do this too. It's just reading it in a in a book format. I was like, damn. So like sometimes it's like, damn, it's a little mean like with Miss Moon phase and all of that, and then oh, and then go home all alone to nobody you have at home, and you're just fantasizing about this, other man who's never gonna be with you. I was like, oh, stand on. You don't have to spit truth like that. So it's like, but then when it starts to get deeper in the second half of the story, it starts clicking more. So for me, it was a little bit wonky and scary at first because it comes off very like I told you earlier through text or whatever through the month. I'm like, oh, is this middle grade? Like he comes off a slightly juvenile, but it's because he's like a freshman. So it's still that step of adolescence of going from like kid to adult, you know. And then yeah, so I really enjoyed John as a
Yeah.
character. Like
For me, for me, I think that that's probably where the most I felt connected to John was the way he described the world. I could tell you that I walked around like that my entire life. Like I still do it. I was reading it and I was like, I'm still this kid, like I'm still that person. And I still view the world in such a like in such a like a fantastical way. It's not he speaks about the world as just like I don't even know how to describe it. He speaks like in riddles. He speaks in like this thing that is not this thing, but it's actually this other thing. And it's like this fantastical world he's built for himself. And I live that. I still do, you know, and I still read people and I look at people and I think of a story for them. I still do that now. Like I look at people and I go, I wonder if they're dressed like that because they're thinking this or they're doing that, or you know, even in my own neighborhood, I have my own house, and in my neighborhood, I'll see a neighbor walking by, and I immediately have a story about their life, and it's just
Yeah,
like living that and reading it. I just like I saw myself basically, and like the way that I take in the world, the way that I view it. And like I said, the stories that I tell myself, whether they're true or not, they happen in my head, you know? And even stories about myself that I either make up or think that I am, and then I find out I'm not that thing. And I just, you know, I had this vision and it wasn't what it was. I just related to him heavily. And on top of that, like I told you earlier about his mother, I also related to that. I never and you know, this is just diving into personal stuff, but I just never felt connected to my family in that way. I felt like they didn't know who I was because I felt strange. I felt different than everybody else. And I felt in the sense of like you were saying where you didn't know if John was middle grade. I felt like a kid all the time. I would have friends of different ages and I felt so
yeah,
young and I felt so small and I felt like am I just so childish maybe that I don't know how to connect with people my age. Like I never felt connected to, especially in high school.
yeah.
High school was such an era of just like I don't know who I am and I'm still trying to figure that out. And
Figure that
everybody
out.
seems like they know what they're doing, and I can tell you that I have no idea what I'm doing. And I think that this book just found me at the perfect moment of this is who I was at the time, you know. Luckily, I didn't have the relationship he had with his stepfather though. That was obviously very tumultuous. So his stepfather was
Yeah,
very abusive, but it was hidden. His mother didn't even know that this was happening. It was happening in the background. He didn't tell her. And to be honest, I related to that part, not telling your. I had horrible things happen to me. My parents don't know about because I didn't feel comfortable telling them. I didn't feel like they'd
yeah,
understand, and I struggled with feeling like they would even care, right? And so like I know
yeah,
that feeling, especially as a kid, you can feel that, you know, especially with a kid with you know, maybe a kid who has depression and things like that. We can feel disconnected from the people that we love. And I think that also was something that I enjoyed reading from
yeah,
John's perspective. And I found him just hysterical. He was funny to me. I laughed at a lot of the things he
yeah,
said. My favorite story of all is the chapter that I love the most is the bullfrog story. Like when he's talking about his tuba, like it's a
yeah.
living,
Like
breathing,
it's a person. Yeah,
like it's a bullfrog. Like he viewed it as this is a giant bullfrog that I have in my hands, and he just like crafted this entire story. And then like yeah, so I just loved him. And then Mr. Steenwilly, the teacher who was just like involved in his life and wanted to know him, was like, I see
yeah.
myself. I had teachers like that who like connected with me and they're like, I see myself so much in you because
And
when I was
those were rare. Those
yeah.
were
And
rare.
I had, you know, it's funny though. You know who I often connected like that with were my women English teachers. They always said the same thing. Like, I see myself in you. I know what you were like when you were younger, blah, blah, blah. So I saw Mr. Steenwilly, like, if I could say who I wanted to be when I grew up at the time was Mr. Steenwilly. Just someone who could see a kid for what they were, which is more than what they thought they were, you know? And I wanted to view and help other people view themselves that way. I really enjoyed Mr. Stanley as well. I
And
like that he
the teacher who gives that open like
door, yeah.
door to we need more teachers like that. And
Exactly.
that's what
Teachers who
yeah,
care, no, for sure. Yeah. And
yeah,
you know, even though John didn't understand it himself at first, he ended up like really thankful to Mr. Cinnamon at the end. And I thought that was really special. So I don't
yeah,
know, just the adventure of what he went through, his friends, and like the connection he had with his teacher, and how the teacher ended up helping him at the end when his father was beating him, when his stepfather was beating him. And then, then the revelation with his mom about like, no, I care about you. I would never have wanted this to happen to you. Like it just, I don't know. Once it ends, I just feel good about life at the end of it.
Yeah, with Steen Willie, I could understand his character what of the most. The mother is where I still leave at limbo, just because I feel like Steen Willie was intuitive enough to maybe be like, you know what, maybe John gets abused at home, and maybe those things are visible while his mom didn't have a clue. I could be slightly sympathetic with the mom because she did have multiple jobs and stuff like that, and she was hardly at home. And I don't know why I'm not forgiving of the mom. That could just be like some hidden drama or something. But it's just, at least with Steen Willie, like I got to like him like a lot, and he would like, you would think he would do things which John also thinks he does things, not mean, but just to like get him out of the shell. But it's that type of activity when a teacher believes in you, you end up switching a little bit and you end up being better because of it. And then, with the title, You Don't Know Me and stuff like that, and where people don't really know each other. I thought the at towards the end of the book, where you get different interpretations of people, and then also it was realistic within the sense of people could also change their attitudes and their perspectives and stuff. And I just thought the overall theme of it was well, like with one thing with the stories that could become annoying with his inner thoughts would be like these dialogues he goes into, deep dialogues, but it has a payoff in that cool scene in where one of the things he says not in his head. He actually says it out loud. Because, at first I was like, I'm like, because sometimes he does like fake scenarios, and then I'm thinking they're real. I'm thinking they're real. And I'm like, and then he gets me like 2 pages that it's not real. And I'm like, damn it, John. But then one time where it's that payoff, And I was like, oh, shit. It actually, I had to like pause the book. I felt like the classroom. I was like, oh, did you hear that, Tiffany? Like, I'm like, oh, shit. So, like,
The
I
worst
just
part,
thought,
Daniel, is I've had that happen to me where I'm talking in my head and I don't realize I've just said something out loud and I'm like, oh fuck, I said that thing. I didn't want to say
yes.
it. Oh my God. And it's always embarrassing and it's always like, oh my God. Yeah, like I like that
Yeah,
scene. I
I
hated
love
it
that.
because I felt it, but I also really liked it because yeah, it is a bit
Yes.
of a payoff. You're right.
Yes, like I was telling you, like a lot of the times, I'm like, this is not a thriller, but the tense level sometimes is a little high. It's a little high with the literal smoke and guns and the little, because the story it's never really truly dark. I cannot say it's a dark book, but it travels through shadow a bit, through darkness with plot lines and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
especially with
over
the stepdad for sure.
with the
Yeah.
stepdad for sure. Yeah, but overall, like I just really love the lessons, and then the also, sometimes what you think is ultimately better can sometimes not be. And then, you should give, because I really love that the storyline changed, and I like the Violet Hayes with her dad, and I like
Yes.
the way,
I
yes,
love
fighting,
Violet Hayes and her dad. They're my favorites of characters. I love
yes.
that because they were just like a sweet family. Like you could tell they were just nice people. And like, you know what's funny? A part of me was like, is Violet Hayes' dad single? Because maybe we could get John's mother with the dad. But whatever, they were
But
married.
then it would make them like stepbrother and sister, so it would be like,
I know, but still, it would have been cute. But anyway,
yeah,
so yeah, I really liked their characters. I thought they were like super sweet people, and I was like, yeah, like that's that idea of like you don't know people until you know them. You don't know them until you actively get to know them. Like that girl he liked ended up being awful. She ended up being crazy with her dad, like coming in and like trying to kick him out of the house and wanted to kill him. And yeah, it was just nice. So in essence, in describing that they don't know him, he's learning that he doesn't know other people either. And it
yeah,
takes speaking up and getting to know someone to truly know what that person's about. And I really like that storyline as well. Because sometimes, especially like if you're an introverted person, you can get in your head a lot and you can tell yourself these stories of what people are like, but you scare yourself into not wanting to be open or vulnerable or whatever. And then ultimately to realize that if you don't do those things, you can't meet people who think like you and are like you and you can connect with. So yeah, I really liked his storyline a lot. And I don't know, I guess I understand you about the mom. It makes sense that you would like feel like why didn't she do anything about it? But
Especially that she was getting angry and like shaking him of like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? I'm like, bitch, you should have seen the context clues.
yeah,
I'm
but
like,
see that I like I said, I didn't feel that way towards the mom. I felt like it made sense because she was always busy, she was always out of the house, and he made it a point to just, like be hide that part of him. He hid
yeah,
the stepdad hid
he hit that
being
part.
abusive. And at the time, the mom was so broken, having had a negative relationship. And here was this guy who was promising her, a stable life and maybe a stable life for her kid. And then maybe it's putting up with some crap that I'm not really a fan of, but hey, at least my kid has a home and at least I can have help with bills and things like that. It makes sense to me that a mother
Yeah,
might not ignore, but miss these things, especially if your son isn't telling you about them.
yeah.
And
But
if
and then
you're,
it goes to show that the only one who truly actually almost saw him completely was Steen Willie. So
exactly.
like, so it makes sense within the
Yeah.
storylines and stuff
But
like that.
also, I feel also in that regard, Steen Willie, I think that he did see him, but he saw him through the lens of himself. Because I don't think John is musical. I think John just is interested in a lot of things. Because I felt I was in band and I did the trombone. I can tell you I'm not musical, but I tried and I attempted and I had fun and I tried to do these things and I tried to understand them. And I've always been the type of person to have different hobbies and different interests. I move through them, right? So I think luckily Steen really saw himself, but really he was still seeing himself. He wasn't truly seeing John. I think that he pushed the music thing a little too much. But in a way that ended up
Yeah,
being helpful, obviously, because
yeah,
it got him to learn more about John and it got John to trust him a little bit more.
yeah.
So yeah,
But there has to
honestly,
be an inkling of Steen Willie like knowing he's getting abused, because it would just be creepy that he's waiting outside in
yeah,
different
no, of
opportune
course. Yeah,
moments. Yeah.
obviously. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah.
So,
There he said that he like I saw a mark on your neck and I just want to make
yes.
sure things are okay. I don't think Steve really knew what was going on, but he just had an idea that maybe
It's
things
because
aren't all the way right.
I'm guessing so many people get multiple dimensions in the book as side characters. Like we get completely 180 of like Violet Hayes, and then all of those people. And then we even get a somewhat, it's not sympathetic, but we get somewhat of a backstory of the father who is not our father,
Yeah,
which I was like, bitch, that's not a reason to be a horrible human being. Like, get the fuck over it. you
exactly.
know so
No,
but
yeah,
the
for
it's
sure.
because the mother is in such a negative light through 88% of the book, that it's just like her transition maybe didn't work too well with me.
Yeah, yeah. No, it
So
makes sense. I can see
maybe,
I can see in your point of view for sure. Yeah. Like I can see how the
yeah.
mom is a little one-dimensional, more so than everybody else. Everybody else felt more dynamic, but she was still a little one-dimensional. And yeah, I can see that. But for me, I don't know. Overall, I still love this story.
Yeah.
I
And
feel
then the lesson is there
yeah,
that sometimes people are in their own world, in their own
exactly.
head, that you need to do an
Reach out to
extension
them.
cord. You
Yeah,
need
you
to
reach
reach
out.
out.
You reach
Yeah.
out as much as you want them to reach out to you, for sure.
Which could be into the same with both books, with Rainbow Boys coming out, and then, John and stuff like that. It's about, you know, through that adolescence, is like, let your feelings out, let your feelings known, build into the person you are.
Yeah.
So I could
I
see
mean, I
those
think
themes.
that is funny that you say that because, yeah, I think that's integral to a lot of youth books. I mean, think of Sarah Dessen, right? The book that we read. What
Just
was it
listen.
called?
Just
Uh,
listen.
Just Listen, where she describes the scene where she held her family's hands and pulled them into her story. Like sharing who you are with the people you love. Sometimes you think they might not understand you, but
Yeah, you get
then they may
scared.
surprise you. They may surprise you, and you'll find a connection with them and a way to build from there. Yeah, so I think definitely these books definitely
Which
fill
that
this
that
gap.
little chapter, that chapter in You Don't Know made me cry because it's so true. It's so true that in life, a lot of times you're gonna get the negativity and you're gonna get the bad things, but it's those little things, those little pockets of people who do know you and who do care that make life worthwhile. Because there
Exactly.
are trigger warnings with even with all the books today, which is like the heavy feelings of we get as adolescents that everything is not picture perfect. So there's like slight trigger warnings with suicidal ideation and all of that. And then both books also have, abuse,
Yeah.
with
Both have abuse.
Jason
The
with
dads.
his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and both alcoholic with whiskey and stuff like that.
Yeah. But
So it's
see, that's what I'm saying. Like, in the sense of like, I'm questioning you now because I love you, but in the sense that you can accept Jason's mother, it's the same situation with John's mother.
oh no, but I don't like Jason's mother either. Especially that she's in denial. But I have two
Well,
other
that's good
mothers.
to know because I was gonna say you
Yes,
haven't said
the
anything
only
about Jason's
character,
mom,
the
and they're
only
the same
character,
character.
the only character that I like in Jason's life is his little video
The
game
little
sister.
sister.
Little sister,
That's
the
I was
little
gonna
sister.
say because I didn't hear you say anything about Jason's mom, but I'm like, those are literally
Because
the same
I what
person.
I said was she's just in denial. Like it's like, oh my god. But then again, there's that, you know. It's because I guess like when my niece and nephew, like, I'm not a parent, but my brother has children and so, like, it's just they're so precious to me. So it's like but some people are not completely empaths. Some people are within their own mindset. So it's like, but that's your baby. That's your baby. You should know. You should
Same
know.
time, but at the same time, you don't. Sometimes they're good
Yeah,
at hiding it.
people are
Right now,
navigating.
they're little kids and they might be easier to notice. But once they're a teenager, you're gonna have a harder time knowing what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And there's a
Yeah,
ton of shit. Think about how much you hid from your
yeah,
parents and they
no, of
didn't know.
course, exactly. I'm being too
So
harsh on her. I'm being too harsh on her. I
I
know
mean, I
that.
think
I
it
know
on
that.
parents in general, because yeah, I mean, they can know as much as they know as much as we're telling them. And I know from my experience when I was a kid, I didn't tell my parents shit because I just didn't. I didn't one, I didn't think they'd care, and two, I didn't think they'd understand. And like there was a
Yeah.
lot of stuff I was going through that they brushed
Yeah,
off because they're like,
the
seems
closest
fine.
I think the closest I think I would be to a parent out of all the parents we have read in these two books, I think I would be like Nelson's mom. I would
Nelson's
be like
mom,
that one
yeah.
that's a little too into it, but then falls back a bit, but then be like, I fucking love you, but you're making a stupid ass mistake. Like I would be the more blunt
I
one.
with the way that I am with my nieces and nephews and being teenagers and growing up into their adulthood, yeah, I can say that I'm definitely Nelson's mom too. I'm just like I try to understand you, but at the same time, I want you to know you're being a dumbass.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I just parents are
But yeah,
parents.
for me, you don't know me. Stood up for me. I still love it. I still love the story. I still love how it ends. It still gives me the good feelings at the end, and I
Yeah,
really
the ending
like John
ending
and
lands super
Lily
well.
and Violet, and I just like they're characters that I think that I'd like to revisit, and I'll probably keep revisiting because they're special to me.
Yes, I was like, maybe in another 10 or 20 years, I'll reread again. At least Rainbow Boys. I was like, there's something about our comfort food book, and then that could lead to our, third act where we're wrapping this episode up. Is like to me, both books hold up to our childhood faves. We loved them. There's something also which behind the scenes, I was like, Heather, I need to read less young adult. I need to get over young adult. And now I'm going into middle grade, which is like a completely different like avenue where I'm enjoying again. It's just sometimes we need to say fuck it and embrace our inner selves and our inner child. And sometimes young adult books are books. regardless of what age level they are, because we're all going through this journey together. We're all on this earth together. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all living it for the very first time, unless you're an Egyptian reincarnated entity, which none of us are. But yeah, so like, I think they hold up. I
Yeah,
think they could
no,
hold up.
me too. I enjoyed being able to read them and just being excited to I felt myself back into that old version of me that just read for hours. It's like I'm devouring these books
Yeah,
and eating them up and just like I don't want nothing else but just keep reading and don't bother me. I'm reading. And that was
yeah,
nice to
totally.
experience.
Yeah. So overall, let's give our ratings to our books.
Yeah, I mean fours
And
for me for both.
yep,
I love
pretty
them both.
much. Pretty much four for both. And
They
it's
get
just
fours for
like,
me.
yep. And we did this. It's like catapulted me. I'm already in the third one of the trilogy. I did go, so I wanted to reread the whole trilogy. And then, funny enough, in my own recollection, I remember the second one way more. In like
Yeah.
rereading it, I'm like, oh my god, all my memories are from the fucking second book, not the
Yeah, no,
first.
I don't remember any of them except this one. I think it's because this is the only one I bought. I haven't bought the other ones in the trilogy.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, oh
But
my
now that you're
god.
talking about it, I realize I'm probably gonna go see if I find them because I do want the whole set.
Yeah, and then from the childhood of us reading, the what I remember more from you lending and having a really profound experience more with was the perks of being a wallflower
Person
before the
being old.
movie, and
Yeah.
oh yeah, before being the
But
movie.
I
Because
think
some,
for me, this one was more when I was in early ninth and 10th grade. Because Perks, I don't think I read until I was a little older in high school.
yes, and then I think for perks for me, I was like first year of college was
Yeah,
when I read perks when you lent it to me.
yeah, so
Yeah,
but it is, I mean, but definitely, yeah, that's if I could list books off of like what were important to me, Perks is definitely up there along with this one. Like Perks was just that was such a good book, but that's a whole
yeah,
other story.
yes, and maybe a future episode for us in if we ever how long we do this. Maybe if we do another blast from the past part two.
That would
But
be
yeah,
fun, yeah.
but
Definitely,
that
yeah. But I think if we do another blast from the past, I think Perks is definitely on that list.
yes,
I
most
think
definitely.
I want you to read Speak Again though.
Speak again or speak now. Well,
Speak, it's just Speak. I'm saying I
yes,
want you to read it again.
I wanna read it. Maybe we'll do that as part two. Speak and perks.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember you were complaining about Speak, so that's funny.
It's because I feel like how I resonate so much with Nelson and stuff like that. I feel like I was more meaner when I was younger and more like standoffish with certain characters because I was having a problem with John. Back in the day, I'm like, why doesn't he stand up to his? Well, he eventually does, but I'm like, he doesn't fucking stand up to his father. If my father was beating me, you best believe I would get that belt back and start beating him. So it's like, but I'm as an adult with this context now, is that sometimes you freeze up, sometimes you don't know, and plus when you're really young, so I'm more forgiving with characters now than when I was a teenager. I'm like self-righteous, like being the head boss bitch. So it's like I love this context of rereading our favorites with an adult context.
Yeah, no, that's funny because I have the opposite experience of that with Nelson because I'm like now as an adult I'm reading Nelson and I'm like Nelson, please stop doing this.
Stop doing it.
Why do you
Stop
keep
doing
making the wrong decision?
it.
But yeah, I'm looking at him in the eyes of an adult. Like if I had a teenager like this, or if I had my nephew was like this or something, I would be like, I'm gonna kill you. Why don't you get it
It's because
together?
it's that YOLO effect. Before YOLO was a thing, it's like you only live once. Like live a little, fuck
Yes. Yeah.
it.
And even in that sense, not standing up for yourself because when he was partnering with that person that he met online, he didn't say that he knew that he didn't want to do what he was doing, but he didn't want to appear not cool or whatever. And so he just did it
Yeah, that
knowing,
peer pressure,
yeah, knowing
societal
that
peer
he
pressure.
didn't feel comfortable and reminding kids like you need to speak up. And even if you're afraid, you need to
Yeah,
speak up
which
for yourself.
which John has a similar scene too.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is the opposite way where it's a girl,
Exactly. Yeah.
exactly, and sometimes we're still figuring ourselves out. We're still, you know,
And that it's
it's okay
okay
to say
to say
no.
that about yourself and admit it to yourself at least, because you know that it doesn't feel good to you. So you need to do what feels good to you. And I think that's important and integral to what the stories want to tell us. And I really like that. But yeah, no,
Yes.
they're still great. I had a lot of fun rereading them.
Yes. Well, guys, that's it for our episode. And we hope you had fun. And you know what? In the beginning of the year, get some comfort food in you and read some classics of your faves. Especially if you're in a reading rut through the holidays and stuff. This is the perfect way to like get you like now
Get
I just want
yourself
to read
into
it.
it. Yeah.
Yes, and you just want to read everything now, and you want to even. Oh, I love it! I love it! It was such a good jump start. It's like a
Yeah, no,
drug.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah, which
But yes,
brings us to our next book for February.
I want to say it. I wasn't. I was thinking we're like we shouldn't say what episode is next, but I want us to say it next, so we're like trapped in it.
I think we should. I think we should.
Okay, yes. Our next book is, which I don't have it here, but it's in my bookshelf but behind me. We're finally doing it. A Little Life,
A Little
which
Life.
A Little Life. It's yes. I will take credit for it. It was my pick for the episode.
I'm very nervous
So,
about this.
so yeah. So you guys will judge me, and
I'm
Heather,
trying
I
to
will I
find
will apologize live here.
I'm trying to find that quote I told you. Hold on. This book is terrifying me because I read this quote and I had a laugh because I'm like, this is Daniel picking these books that are always so depressing. This person freaking what she said about the book. She says, and I quote, "A Little Life is not an easy read. So after saying it's one of my favorite books, I always feel the need to add a caveat to that statement because while exquisitely written, it is also relentlessly sad with 700 pages detailing harrowing abuse and trauma.
Mama,
I
I'm
don't know what I
sorry.
got myself into with you in this book. I am terrified for my life.
For me, it's like the trauma, the sadness, the tears, and all
Oh
that. And then
my God.
with you, the opposite of the pendulum. With you and me, it's the fantasy, the overwords, the long adventures, the
I'm
fantasy.
terrified. I'm terrified. I'm terrified. This is the face I make whenever I see this book. I go just like that. Oh, I'm scared. Uh,
Well, that's our episode.
thank
We'll
you
see
so
you on the
much,
flip
guys.
side.
Bye.
Bye.